Welcome to EDAB video number 4, Data Analysis and Business Intelligence Made Easy with Excel Power Tools. And in this video, the tool that started it all, the Pivot Table, best data analysis tool ever. Now in this video, we'll learn all of the basics for how to create a pivot table. And in the process, we'll create this dashboard. We'll also see how to use the Show Values As feature to create this amazing frequency distribution from text data. We'll also see how to do a cross tab, calculating percentages based on the Show Values As feature. Here's our file name. You can download this file on the links below the video. This is the start file. There's also a finished file, which shows the finished examples after the video is done. Here's the objectives for this video. These objectives are also listed below each video. Now this is Excel Basics 1, but below our video, if you look for that Show More button, you click, and there's a time hyperlink table of contents. If you like what you see in this video, click that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified about new videos. Now we want to go over to the sheet Cross Tab. The first question is, what is a pivot table? Well, we have this data set, and if our goal is to add sales from this column based on sales rep Alma and the auto Chevy, and then do that for every single combination in this data set, the pivot table is the way to go. Now, pivot tables create summary reports that contain calculations with conditions or criteria. Most of the time, people just refer to pivot tables as summary reports, but at their essence, they're the perfect tool for when we want to make calculations with conditions or criteria. So this is a cross-tabulated report where the intersection of a column, in this case sales rep Alma, and a row, in this case Chevy, the intersection is summing with two conditions. Internally in the pivot table went through, found the matches in both the sales rep and auto columns, took those numbers, and delivered the answer. Internally, inside a cross tab like this, every single intersecting cell is a new AND logical test where we're adding with 1, 2 conditions. Now, the cool thing about a pivot table is, yes, the interior does an AND logical test, but check this out. This grand total right here is the actual total for Chevy, Ford, and so on. The grand total in the bottom is the total for sales rep Alma, sales rep J. Young, and so on. So anytime we do a pivot table, we're thinking, man, this is awesome at making calculations with conditions and criteria. And as we'll see, it's not only adding. We can do averages, counts, or even percentages based on one or more condition. All right, let's build our first pivot table. Step 1, you got to have a proper data set with empty cells all the way around. Step 2, click in a single cell inside our proper data set. Notice those are the same steps we use for other data analysis features like sort, filter, and the Excel table feature. It kind of makes sense that we'd go up to data, but that's not where they put it. They put it in the insert table group, and there's our pivot table button. Now, because we're going to do a lot of pivot tables, let's use the keyboard. Alt-N-V. That's a succession keyboard. You don't hold it like Control together. It's just Alt, and then N, and then V. That brings up Create Pivot Table dialog box. Because we have a proper data set, step 1 will always get the correct table. So all we have to do is say, hey, where do we want to put this? I'm going to put it in location, G7. Click OK. Now, my pivot table field list is floating. Yours is probably docked over here, but you can click and drag. And look at that. This is our field list. The column names are field names. We're allowed to drag and drop. Now, column, filter, row, that's where we drag the conditions or criteria we want to use in our report. Fields that we want to make calculations on, we drag to the values area. So we're going to drag sales rep. With my move cursor, I'm going to click and drag. Notice the no symbol, no. But when I get down to filter columns or rows, I see a green bar. That means I'm allowed to drop it. when I drop it into rows, instantly we get a sorted, unique list of items. That means the pivot table feature, when we drag and drop a field to columns or rows, has the ability to look through the entire column, no matter how big or small it is, and deliver a sorted, unique list of items. That's one of the reasons that pivot tables are so easy. If you think about how we did it last video, when we used old school formulas, we had to manually create this list. When we used dynamic arrays, we had to use sort and unique functions together. But with a pivot table, drag and drop, less than 1 second, and we have our unique list of items. Now autos, we're going to drag down to columns. Our cross tabulated report is coming into view. Now we drag the field we want to make a calculation on down to the values area. And look at that. With just a few clicks, we have created a cross tabulated report where the intersecting value is adding with 1, 2 conditions. Now we saw how to do this last video with the formula. And if we think back, pivot tables are a lot easier. Just a few clicks and we have our report. Now, one thing about pivot tables is the default is to say column labels, row labels. It should say sales rep and autos. Because those are not good labels for our report, we're going to go up to Design, over to Layout, Report Layout, and Show in Tabular. Either Outline or Tabular will always show us the field names rather than those silly labels. So I'm going to say Show in Tabular. Since we're using Office 365, I would like to show you how to change the default settings so that we always get the field names instead of those silly row and column labels. Go up to File, down to Options, Data tab, Edit Default Layout for a pivot table. And I want Report Layout, Show in Tabular. There are some other settings here that we could set, but without a doubt, that is the one default setting you want to change. Now I'm going to click OK. Click OK. When we create the remaining pivot tables in this video, when we create it for the first time, it'll always have the field names. Now we want to add some number formatting. So any one cell inside the values area of our pivot table, right-click. And we don't want to point to Format Cells. Notice it has all of the tabs. If we use Format Cells Number tab, it will add the formatting to the cells. And we want to add the number formatting to the actual field. So when you're in a pivot table, right-click, and there's this option. If you're in the cells, notice there is no number option. That option only shows up when you're in a pivot table. So right-click, there it is. Now, we know that we're in the correct dialog box because I only see the Number tab. There's none of those other tabs. Now, Microsoft made a real error when they put the words Format Cells in the title bar. It should say Format Pivot Table Field. Because when we add a particular number formatting, I'm going to select Number, use a comma, no decimals. This number formatting gets applied to that Sales field. So wherever we pivot or move this pivot table, the formatting will always follow that Sales field around. Now let's click OK. Now I want to indicate the unit. So the way we're going to do that so it's not cluttered, select cell G7. F2 to put the cell in edit mode, space, open parentheses, and we'll put a $sign to indicate the unit in parentheses. I want to change the column width. Click and drag. Now, why is a pivot table called a pivot table? Here's why. If the boss sees this and says, no, 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 I wanted to see autos in the rows and sales rep up in the columns, we can pivot it. And we'll see that we actually have a number of different options here. I'm dragging columns, and I'm going to drag down below sales rep. And when I drop, well, that's a beautiful report. Now, for each sales rep, it lists autos and amounts. Maybe the boss wanted that, but no, the boss said, no, I wanted sales rep over to columns. We're pivoting the pivot table. And notice anytime we do that, the number formatting moves along with it. Now, we have default of sum. Anytime you drag a number field down to the values, it defaults to sum. If you drag a text field, like we will in some of our later pivot tables, down to the values, it defaults to counting. But it's easy to change. Right-click, And there's two options. Summarize values by. These change the aggregate calculation. Show values as. There's some other various calculations available. And we'll see examples of summarize values by and show values as in our next couple of pivot tables. Escape. We can also change the style. If you want to go up to Pivot Table Tools, Design, there's some styles to choose from. Now I want to name this pivot table. Go up to Analyze, Pivot Table, and there's the options. You can also right-click Pivot Table Options, and there it is right there. I'm going to call this Cross Tab Report and Enter. That's not so important for this one. But later, when we have multiple pivot tables working together, it's really handy to name them. Now, if I click off to the side, what happened to my field list? Just like menus, when I click inside the pivot table, the field list pops up, and so do my context-sensitive menus. Now, if you accidentally right-click and click Hide Field List, your field list goes away. To bring it back, right-click, Show Field List. Now, let's add some new data. If I scroll down, here's some new records. Control-C. And right below, this is an Excel table, so I simply Control-V. What? Nothing updated. Yes, as we talked about last video, when we get new data, we have to right-click Refresh. Now, the reason that this is happening is when I first created this pivot table, the pivot table feature took the data and copied the data and stored it in a pivot table cache. That means behind the scenes, a new copy of that data is stored, and that's what the pivot table is using. That's why we have to refresh. So right-click, refresh. That means it's going to reload the data from this table into the pivot table cache. Refresh. And just like that, our pivot table has updated. Now here are the things we covered just in this first basics example. Now we want to go over and look at a more comprehensive example. Let's go to the sheet Sales Data. Now here's our data set. We have date, product, units, revenue, cost of goods sold, transaction, country origin, and product category. Now if I click in the top cell and Control down arrow, we have 45,000 records here. Control up arrow. Now our goal is to create two summary reports and connect those summary reports to a slicer for quick analysis in a dashboard. Specifically, the managers want to see number of units by country and product, sum and average calculation for revenue by month, and the managers want to be able to filter this report by year and country. Now in this video, we have our data sitting in an Excel table in an Excel worksheet. And we're going to use the built-in pivot table calculations, summarize values by, and show values as. That means what we're building is a standard pivot table. Now later in the class, we'll learn that sometimes the calculations in a standard pivot table aren't what we want. In that case, we switch over to a data model pivot table. Also, anytime we have lots of data, 500,000 rows of data, 1 million, 10 million rows of data, that's not going to even fit in an Excel worksheet. In that case, we'll switch over to a data model pivot table. So in this example, we have a small data set. Now, for those of you learning, you might say, well, 45,000 rows, that's a lot of data. Not for data analysis. So this is technically a small data set. It causes no problems if we just store it in the Excel worksheet and use a standard pivot table. The calculations we're going to make, we can do with our built-in calculations. So a standard pivot table is the perfect tool for the job here. Also, we're using a pivot table because we do not need the report to update instantly when the source data changes. Of course, as we saw last video, if that was a requirement, we'd have to use formulas. Now, this is a picture of our finished dashboard. And a dashboard can be defined as one location where we can present our information we create in a neat and organized manner. And when we get new data, we want to be able to click Refresh and have everything update. Just like a dashboard in your car, a dashboard should present the information that's required for making good decisions. So our manager said they wanted country, product, sum of units. And then somehow from our transactional data set, we're going to have to group by year and month, and then calculate revenue and average. These are what are called slicers. If I click on 2017, it'll filter all of our reports. So the numbers in this report are only for 2017. If I use this transaction country origin slicer, I can select one or more countries, and it filters the entire report. To build our dashboard, we have a proper data set. I click in a single cell. We're going to use the keyboard Alt and V. It guessed right because we have a proper data set. I want to put this in an existing location in J19. Do not put the pivot table report directly next to the data set. Click OK. From our field list, we drag country down to rows. Instantly, I get a unique list of all the countries. I drag product down below countries. Now, for each country, I get a unique list of products. I want to add units. Because it's a number field, when I drag it down to values, it defaults to sum. Now, notice that our default setting for tabular layout is working. But I really don't want this long label here, so I'm going to select the cell and simply type country and enter. Let's change the column width. I want to name this pivot table. Right-click, Pivot Table Options, and now I'm going to type something smart, country product pivot. Click OK. In the value area, right-click, number formatting, number, use a separator. This is an integer. We're summing units. 0 decimal, click OK. I want to add a particular style, so I go up to Design. Click the More button. Most of these look terrible. Light green, pivot style 14. This is our first pivot table. I'm going to click back inside the data set. A single cell, Alt and V. We're going to put this, scrolling up very carefully, in N19. Now, if we were to pivot this first pivot table or add some other calculation, we would get an overlap error. But we know that this is our finished result here, so I'm going to put it as close as possible inside the dashboard. Click OK. I'm going to move this to the side. I can use my horizontal scroll. Now, we want to look at our data set and realize that we're given transactional dates. These are daily dates. What I really want in the pivot table is to add revenue and average revenue by year and month. Now, ever since Excel 2016, when we drag a transactional date down to the row area, it will automatically group for us. So I'm going to drag date down here. And look at that, year, quarter, and date. Now, I don't want quarter, so I'm going to click and drag off. In the row area, right-click, expand and collapse, expand entire field. Now, the pivot table grouped this transactional daily date automatically. If we wanted the daily dates, like for daily sales, we would right-click and point to ungroup. If I click group, I actually can choose to group by hours, days, and so on. Now, I'm going to check this because I don't want quarters. And just like that, now I'm only grouping by years and month. Click OK. Without a doubt, this is one of the most beloved features inside of a pivot table, because oftentimes we have our transactional dates and we need yearly or monthly reports. Now, we want to drag revenue down to values. Right-click, number formatting. We'll do number, separator, and I want 0 decimals for total revenue. Up in the header, F2, and we're going to indicate that the unit is dollars, and enter. Change the column width. Now we're going to drag revenue a second time down below values. And now we want to change the calculation. Right-click, summarize values by. These allow us various aggregate functions, and we want average. Right-click, number formatting. We'll do the same number. I'm going to leave it showing to the penny. Click OK. Top cell F2, and we'll indicate the unit, $sign. Right-click the pivot table down to Pivot Table Options, and we want to give this pivot table a smart name. Yearly month pivot, and enter. Design ribbon tab, down to More, and we'll use the same green style to give it consistency. Now we want 2 filters, one for year and one for country. And we could use this filter area right here. But filter, that affects every single number with the same condition. Rather than dropping it here, which if we did this, there's year. it adds a small drop down here, and that's kind of small and cumbersome. So we're going to drag this off and go up to Analyze. And in the Filter group, here's Insert Slicer, which will filter the whole report, but with a nice visual filter. Select Years, Country, click OK. Wow, look at that. One, right-click, Slicer Settings. I want to select Hide Items with no data, click OK. We can resize this. Let's make this horizontal. We'll come up to Slicer Tools, Options, Increase Number of Columns. We'll also, with the slicer selected, come over and select our green theme. I went ahead and changed this slicer, 2 columns, and our green. Now the last step, or maybe the second to last step, is I want to highlight the range, J17 all the way to T17. Right-click, Format Cells, or we can use the keyboard Control-1, Alignment tab, Horizontal, Center Across Selection. Over to Fill, we'll have this dark green. Border, I'm going to say Outline. Font, white. And I'm not quite sure what size, maybe 18. Click OK. I haven't even typed anything yet. Now we're going to type the company name, Boomerang Incorporated Dashboard, and Enter. Now we have 2 different slicers. But let's think about the year slicer. I don't see the year anywhere in either one of these pivot tables. That means this is January for all the years. I don't want that. I'm going to click back inside this pivot table, and we're going to drag year down above date in rows. Another thing, this date, I really want it to say month. So I'm going to click up here, months, and enter. I'm going to highlight R, S, and T, and then click and drag to add some more room. Move the slicer off to the side. Maybe do RST again. And now when I click 2017, there it is. If I click Austria, I can see just Austria. Now, both of the calculations in this row right here are for the years 2017 June and for the country Austria. Over here, 227 sum of units. That's for the country Austria, the product Carlota, and the year 2017. That is adding with 3 conditions. Or if I want to select Belgium, I can hold the Control key, and when I click on Germany, I select just those 2. I can see Germany appears over here. Holding Control, I click on France, and now I see France down here. Now, we don't have any new data, but absolutely we could paste that new data below this data set. And because we have multiple pivots, we could come up and use the Refresh All, and it would refresh both pivot tables. Also, we created this dashboard right next to the data set, but we didn't have to do that. We could have created it on a different sheet. All right, so that's our second example about the power of pivot tables. Now we have 2 other quick examples we want to do. Let's go over to the sheet Cell Phone Data. Now our goal on this sheet is simple. We have some phone purchase data, and all we want to do is get a unique list of the phones, count how many of each we sold, and then we want the percentage of the total for each phone. Now there's a special name for this type of report, a frequency distribution. I'm going to click in a single cell, Alt-NV. If we wanted it on a new sheet, we would simply leave that selected and click OK. I'm going to put this on location here. In cell D18, click OK. And look at that. There's only 1 field. We drag it down to rows. Instantly, I get a unique list. I drag this text field down to values, and it will default to the count. Then I drag same field again down to values. But what do we want? Right click. In our last example, we changed the aggregate calculation, but there's a lot of awesome built-in calculations under Show Values As. We want the percent of column total. When I click OK, that took maybe 5 clicks, maybe 10 seconds. Unique list. There's our count. This is a percent of the column total. So it took each individual amount and divided it. Numerator, denominator, over the grand total. That's the count of all the sales we had. Sometimes this is called frequency, so I'm going to change it to frequency. And this one sometimes is called percent relative frequency, and enter. Whatever you want to call it, that is amazingly easy. Now, reports like this are used all the time. They're used in marketing surveys. They're used in sales analysis. We can estimate from this frequency distribution the percent that we're going to sell in a future period. All right, we have one last amazing example. We want to go over to the sheet CPA data. Now, here we have a CPA exam data set. In this column, we have two categories. You either did not take a CPA preparation course or you took a prep course. And then in this column, you either passed or failed. Now, what we'd like to do is have a report that looks like a cross tab. We use this in the rows, this in the columns. But then I want to compare as a percentage the pass and fail numbers to the total for people who took the prep course and those who did not. So this is a proper data set. I click in a single cell, Alt-NV. Now, I keep putting them on existing sheet because I like to take a screenshot of the data set and the report and then put it into the PDF notes for you to read. But most of the time, we're putting our pivot tables on a new worksheet. I'm going to click OK. All right, CPA prep course down to rows, pass, fail down to columns. The beauty of a pivot table, anytime we drag something to columns or rows, we get a unique list. Now, I want to take one of the text fields, and any one of them will work because the intersecting, if we're counting, is actually counting the record and finding out if it has pass and it has took CPA prep course. Here, the record to be counted has to be fail and did not take CPA course. So it doesn't matter which one, but I'm going to drag this one down to values. It's text, so it defaults to count. Now, the report I want is I want to take that number and divide it over 6175, and then this one over 6175. So each one of the intersecting values, which that is an AND logical test right there. The record had to have pass and did not take CPA course. But now I want to take that number and divide it by that, which is just the total based on one condition. No problem. I take percent of row total, right click, show values as. There's all sorts of amazing calculations. The one I want, percent of row total. And look at that, 84% failed if they didn't take a prep course. Oh, but wait a second, almost 61 failed if they did. But over here, the good news, almost 40% passed. Yes, indeed, it's hard to pass the CPA exam. Now you can go to the sheet homework 1 to 3. Here's a practice problem for you. There's the answer, but don't look at it first. There's another practice problem for you. All right, that was an epic video all about pivot tables. We saw how to take some text CPA data and create percentage of row totals. We saw how to take a single column of text data and create a frequency distribution. We saw how to create an entire dashboard with 2 pivot tables and 2 slicers. And we started it off talking about a cross tab pivot table, looking at the basics of pivot tables. All right, if you like that video, be sure to click that thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe, because there's always lots more videos to come from Excelisfun, including EDAB number 5 coming up next. Will be all about visualizations. All right, we'll see you next video.